Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. We're going to go ahead and start getting the oil out of the G&E shaper over there. I need to do an oil change. I'm still waiting on the oil to show up. It hasn't arrived yet, but what we're going to do is get started on it. I got a new little gadget right here that I got for free that we are going to use to extract that oil out of the shaper. So I'm going to tell you all about this and give you a little rundown of what it is. And I thought this would be a really cool unit to share with you guys on the channel and kind of explain what a gearbox is and and how it works. It's just a real small scale. So we're going to use this. I got some hoses we're going to hook to it, and we're going to use this to pump the oil out of the shaper into some buckets. And then after all the oil's out, I'm going to get in there and give it a good wipe down and clean it up, clean the very bottom, because I know there's going to be some sludge in the very bottom probably. And then once I get the shaper good and clean, we'll refill it with the proper oil. We're going to talk about what the proper oil is. I had emailed a couple of companies here. There was a company here in town that I actually used for the oil. That's who I bought the oil for the K&T from, RK Allen. And I give them a picture of the chart on the machine that tells you what kind of oil is supposed to go into the shaper. So they sent it to the Chevron engineers, and then they in turn told me what the proper oil was. Unfortunately, all they had it in is 55-gallon drums for like 850 bucks. Well, I don't need that, but I do need 11 gallons, so I need to get 3 pails, 5-gallon pails. I had contacted Lubraloy because they're a distributor, or Motion is a distributor for Lubraloy. So I contacted them, sent them the same picture of what the proper oil that G&E recommended for the machine, and they in turn got back to me and showed me what they recommended, and they had it in stock, so I got some ordered. And again, we'll talk about that in more detail later in the video. I'm just waiting for it to show up at this point. All right, so I'm gonna move the camera down here. We're gonna take a look at this little pump, and we'll even plug it in because it's actually got a cord attached to it also, and it's not really built to pump oil out of a machine, but that's what I'm going to use it for. So you're probably asking, what the heck is that thing? This is some sort of piston pump, and I'm not sure what the exact application was used for. What I can tell you is that this was in our scrap pile. I don't know why it was in the scrap pile, but it was. And it was pointed out to me whenever I was trying to find out, what I could do about a simple little oil pump. And, the guys told me that this was out there. It was probably something that somebody had ordered, a customer through work, and they must have canceled the order, and it's probably sitting on the shelf for a very long time. And so it was probably written off and then gotten rid of. So I picked it up and figured that if it worked, I could use it to pump oil with. So I actually tested it at work, and it did work. So what we have here is an electric motor, and this is a 120 volt electric motor that I believe is running at 1725 RPM. And then what it is, it's attached to this gearbox right here. This is a worm drive, a worm gearbox. So you have a worm shaft going this way that's attached to the motor, and then you have the worm gear right here. So this shaft through here is going to spin this gear, and it's going to rotate this very slowly. You have an eccentric that's attached to the output shaft, and there's a bearing here. You have a rod. There's a piston on this end. This is the business end down here that's going to be your moving your fluid on this end. So this shaft turns, and this ball bearing in here moves this back and forth, and it's moving the piston on this other end. So it's going to pump and push, pull and push fluid. So let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and plug it in. That's it. See how exciting it is? You have a stroke adjust right here with a setting of 1 through 6, and this chart tells you how many gallons per hour that this thing will move depending on your piston size. But I don't know exactly what size this piston is in there. I might be able to take the fittings off and look and get a little better idea. But if it's a 1-inch piston and I have it set at 6, which it's set at 6 now, it should move 14 gallons per hour. So I should be able to hook this thing up with my hoses and stick it in the shaper and just let it run for a while, and it should pump it on out of there. So you'll have I'll have 2 hoses, and these are check valves, by the way, so it's only going to go one direction. I'll be able to hook my hoses here, and then you got a bleeder valve right there to bleed the air out. As simple as that. Well, you can see it moving, just trying to pump it right there. And then up top, this is a little breather that one of my coworkers gave me to go right there. That's just a little spring-loaded breather, so whenever this starts warming up and builds pressure, it's able to release some of the air in there. So that's all that is, and it's already pre-filled with oil according to the tag, pre-filled from the factory. That's going to be a neat little pump to have around here for whatever. All right, so I made up 2 hoses. It's got the MPT on the end there, so we'll be able to just drop one into the oil and then drop the other hose into a bucket. See, we got another one right there. So you got a ball in there as a check. All right, so that one's going to be the suction side right there, and then this one will be your discharge. You can see the piston working inside there, and I believe that's going to be an 1.5 inch piston. That's what it looks like, just eyeballing it. And I'm looking at this chart. If this is a 1.5 inch piston and we got it set at 6 on this end right here, it says 30 gallons per hour for 60 RPM, and then use half of that for 30 RPM. So let's find out what RPM that output shaft is running at. There's another one on this side right here. So let's see if we got a tool around here that'll tell us what that is. We're going to use the Starrett RPM gauge. It's basically a tack to read what the RPM is. Finally got a good use to show this off on camera for those that have seen these but never used them or know what they're used for. So I got it set on 0. We got the 2 rivets lined up with each other. I got my stopwatch ready to go here, and we're going to read it for 30 seconds. All right, so just pull off after the time there. All right, so that is reading 18. Flip it over that way. 18 RPM. So that's for 30 seconds. Multiply that by 2 for the minutes. That's going to be what, 36? So that's running at 36 RPM. It says 30 RPM on this, but we're gonna call it 36 RPM. Okay, we got the pump set up, ready for action. So let's go ahead and give you your first peek at the innards of the shaper here. And I think I got it pretty well lit up for you. So let's get in here and see the inside of the shaper for the first time. All right, we got the transmission in the back. And we have helical cut gears. This is your crank right here, and of course the bull gear. And the bull gear is attached to this crank right there. There's a block that slides up and down right here, and as that bull gear is spinning, this crank is what's attached to the top of the ram. Probably can't see it though, and that's what makes the ram move in and out, stroke in and out. I don't want to run it right now just because, you know, I've had the machine off for several days now, trying to get all of the oil to drain to the bottom, and it is low. So it should have more oil in that right there. I believe this guy right here is the dipstick and oil fill. I'll have to make a little piece of square to fit down in there. I believe that's 5/8 if I want to take that out and use that. And that guy right down there, that's the filter screen. And whenever I took the cover off with it running, I noticed that it was sucking air right there. It pumps oil in really fast, and then it was just drawing air, so it wasn't properly lubricating. Because all of these gears right up in here are all fed oil from somewhere up top, one of those tubes. It all gravity feeds and just sprays down on those gears as it's running. All right, and you can see all the oil tubes running to all over the machine. I'll try to pan you around so that you can see everything. That's the line that comes right out here to oil this guy. I'm gonna see if we can get a shot of the gear. I look forward to putting that video on the computer so I can see up in there. So a very, very important aspect of gears and transmissions and any kind of gear train gearbox is the lubrication. That is what's going to be the life of your gears, is the proper lubrication. Lubrication. So it's very important that you have the proper oil in the transmission, in the gearbox, whatever, the proper oil, proper level, and that everything is getting lubed like it should be. So we're going to go ahead and start pumping this guy out, and I've got the pump set up for the discharge side to go in this bucket. I got another one right there, and we'll drop that hose down in there and see if it starts pumping. Okay. I've got my stopwatch ready to go as well. I'm going to crack that bleeder to help get the air bled out of it. Okay, a little update. I had the valves, or the check valves, on there the wrong position. I had to flip them. It wasn't drawing. So I got it working now. We've got the discharge over here in the bucket, and it's pumping. And I had went ahead and trimmed a little bit of hose off that end because it was kind of curling back around. And then when I had to flip the hose to the bottom side, I actually needed that little bit. So I've got a magnet there holding the hose in place so that the tip of the hose is kind of all the way at the bottom down there. So we'll have to kind of play with that as we go. So here's our discharge. If you look at the screen, you can see we're already making pretty good headway, as it's already down below the top of that. So maybe about an hour. I got my timer set, and we've already been pumping for a good 6 minutes now. Probably filled this bucket up about halfway already. Getting pretty heavy. Getting down there pretty low to the bottom. I might have to reposition the hose whenever I get it down there where it starts trying to suck some air. See if we can get a little better shot of these gears up in here. I can tell that it has been sitting for a long time. I believe this sat for it was like 9 or 10 years not being used. So moisture accumulated in here, caused a little bit of flash rusting. There we got the hose repositioned more all the way down against the bottom of the sump there, and it's still going. I'm gonna try to get every drop we can, so whatever's left down in there, I'm gonna use my pig mats to soak up. We're gonna pump as much as we can. And this thing is almost full. So it looks like it was way low on oil, but I gotta go back and read the book. I'm almost positive the manual said this thing holds 11 gallons. And that would only be 5 right there, plus what little bit's still in there. I got about all I can get out of it. I've been moving this hose around kind of like a vacuum, and it's starting to get to where it wants to suck more air than anything, but I have been using it to try to get as much as I can. So we still got a little bit of oil in the bottom with some sludge. I think I'm gonna go ahead and call it quits. And we're gonna lay some pig mat down in there to soak up all the rest of it. I'm gonna play with this for a couple more minutes while I can. So this is my oil absorbent mat made by Pig. And the gray is the water and oil. At work we mostly just use the white, which is oil only. It don't absorb water, but this one does. So I've got a few of these. I've got a whole roll of this stuff, and I'm gonna lay these all down in that sump and push them down in there, and we're gonna let it sit overnight and try to soak up all that oil. I'm also gonna take my spray can with my solvent degreaser and try to give this kind of like a wash down and wash any of the crud and residue down into the bottom. I'm gonna take a couple of them probably and shove them up in there like that. Well, it got away from me. I'm trying to get it more flat, but it'll absorb. It's a slow process, but it'll absorb. These things are perfect for drips on the concrete too. You can lay one of these mats down, come back the next day, and every bit is absorbed. And you see, I'm just going to kind of push it down. I forgot there's a, what did we find here? There's like a conduit clamp. There is a few chips in the bottom as well. A lot of sludge in the bottom of this thing, man. So I'll try to absorb a lot of that with these mats. And then whatever we don't get, we're just going to hand wash it out of there. We'll use our cleaner that we used on the outside of the machine, and we'll give it a good wash out. I'm excited to do it though. I'm happy to do that to this machine. And there's no telling how many decades it's been since somebody has actually cleaned this sump out. And that's with any old machine tool. They usually go a long time before they get cleaned out like this. I'm gonna go ahead and put a couple more in here just so that we got plenty of absorbing mat. Tear a little piece. Go up in there. I don't know if you can see that on this other side. There's a little channel that goes up into the casting over here. Yep, yeah, I can feel it's full of sludge, and there's another one underneath right here. It goes to the dipstick. Pretty good little cavity in there. Take this and shove it up in there. Oh yeah. A pretty good little pocket down inside there. Wow. Full of the oil. All right. I think that's going to be good for now. Of course, I'll check it tomorrow when I come home and see, you know, if those things are completely soaked. And if there's still a lot of oil, I'll pull them out and we might just wipe it out at that point. Tonight I'm going to go ahead and start hanging some more lights. I picked up 2 more 8-foot fixtures today, brought them home. I also got some more wire, some conduit, and the LED bulbs. This is the same stuff that I put up in the other side of the shop. So this one here, or I've got 2, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here above the shaper. We're going to put one right there. It's going to be right there on that seam line, on that rafter right there, and it should be right above the vise of the shaper. And then the other one, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it right here because I'm going to run 2 down this workbench here on this side. So I just picked up 2 this time, do a little at the time, and I'll have them pigtailed so that I can keep hooking into them, because I'm going to get some more and run down this side of the wall as well. So that's what I'm working on. Just getting started on it. Thought I'd show you the pig mat from last night. You can see that it's absorbed it very well, and it looks like it's fully soaked in. So it's probably soaked up all that it's going to. But I'm not going to mess with this until tomorrow, Saturday, and get in there and wash it out. So the task for tonight, and then tomorrow also, we're going to work on this lighting. All right, it's been a couple of days since I put the pig mat down in there, and it looks like it's well absorbed as much as it can. I'm going to go ahead and pull these things out and see how good it did. Fully absorbed. This pig mat does a good job of wicking into the entire mat and spreading it out. There we go. Oh, isn't that nice? All that sludge down in there. All right, from here I'm going to start rinsing it out. I'm going to put a little bit of cleaner in there and try to wipe some of that stuff out of there. That's basically it right there. That's what we're going to do. So camera's in my way, so I'm going to shut you off and I'll bring you back later. I think I'm finished getting it cleaned out. I've been working on it for a couple hours, getting that sump cleaned out. It was full of sludge and it was like mud down the bottom, but I've got it cleaned out the best that I can. And the pockets down there, you see on that side there, and also on this side, which is where the oil fill hole is, there's not a dipstick there, by the way. It's just a plug, and the manual says a dipstick, but maybe that's a different model. Maybe it was a newer model. I've still got the pig mat in those because I'm still catching just a little bit when I shove a rag up in there and move it around. So I'm just trying to soak up any more. And then in behind there, I've gotten it the best that I can. There's probably still a little bit that could be cleaned up in the very back corner, but I cannot reach back there. So I've shoved things back there, you know, and moved it around and cleaned it best I can. But I think we're going to consider this clean. It still looks dirty, but I mean, it's clean. I've got the whole thing wiped down as much as I can. I'm going to go ahead and put some more pig mat in the bottom and let that absorb any of the moisture that's still in it from the cleaner, because it is water based and still may get a little bit of dripping down there. But other than that, I think it is ready. It is clean. I think it's just about ready for some oil. So one more oiling issue that I'm going to have to deal with again, and this may come up in other places of the machine. Remember, I hooked a hose from here to here, and there was actually another smaller hose that was going in between us again. I believe it was like a double hose system, and what I think is going on is that oil is coming up through the small hose to oil, and then everything that's left over, you know, the bypass, is going back through the larger part of this tube down into here. Okay, you see right in there, see on that that's a rubber hose, and it broke right there. And I actually got a piece right here. Whenever I was cleaning it, this broke off, and it goes right there. And what it did is it went up into this copper tube and come up through, and I could see it right there. So I was able to kind of fish it out. That's the pieces that I had fished out of it right there. So it must go up inside this copper tube also and connect. So what I'm going to have to do is kind of figure this out. I have to take this sight glass off and see about getting that fixed back the way the factory had it. So I believe we got to get a small tube. It's probably going to be something like 1/8, 3/16. I'm not really sure. Tubing to connect that line all the way up into here, wherever it goes, and then put the bigger hose back onto that. So I think the oil comes back down this big hose into here and just dumps into the sump here. I believe that's what it does. Getting ready to wind down. Abby said I'm taking her to dinner tonight, so I gotta finish up and get the place closed up. I thought I'd give you a little shot of what I've been up to, just slowly and steadily, whenever I have time, making a little bit of progress on cleaning up the G&E shaper here. So today I got the top of the vise cleaned up. Also got the graduations there on the bottom polished up. I did swivel the vise, and it moves nice. So we're going to continue to work on all the pieces, all the little trim, all the detail, and try to get everything looking really good. You know, I haven't done anything up here yet, so this is going to be a lot of work up here. I did get this polished up right here. So this is the stroke adjust lever right here that you tighten up. Got the top of it polished up here as well. Just a little bit here and there. Polished up this handle. It's got a good feel to it now. Got that rust off of it. So that's about it. I really look forward to getting more of this polished in. Oh, I did do the ways here as well. Okay, so I wiped those down real good with some gray Scotch-Brite and WD-40. Got them clean. So we will continue getting it cleaned up. Hopefully this is going to be good and dry and ready for some new oil this coming up week. And we'll bring it back whenever we get to some more. Okay.